All right, so without further ado, this is the Andrea English versus Sean Combs. This is Diddy's 10th lawsuit. We are up to Diddy's now 10th lawsuit. I cannot believe that we are at 10 damn lawsuits from one individual in less than a year. Less than a year. 10 lawsuits. My goodness gracious. So, the preliminary statement, of course, on November 16, 2023, Cassandra Ventura Cassie had filed a 35-page lawsuit. So, basically saying this preliminary statement right here is just to say Cassie broke the mold. And after that, we got lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. So, we'll count them down. So the third one says, since Ventura's brave decision to file a lawsuit, Combs was accumulated numerous lawsuits across the country for the same conduct alleged by Ventura. Days later, more lawsuits were filed against defendant Combs. One being plaintiff Joy Dickerson Neal alleged the defendant Combs had drugged and sexually assaulted her when she was a college student. Then there's another lawsuit. The other lawsuit currently being appropriately refiled in New Jersey. Accused Miss Combs and singer Aaron Hall of forcing the plaintiff and another unidentified woman into non-consensual sex. At the same time, a fourth lawsuit was filed. Then you had the fifth lawsuit, the sixth lawsuit, the seventh lawsuit, the eighth lawsuit. The ninth lawsuit was filed, and that was, I believe, was that April? Yes. April Lampros was the ninth lawsuit. And then we have now the 10th lawsuit. So prior to any of the cases above being filed, defendant Combs was named as a defendant in a civil sexual assault lawsuit in Florida involving R&B singer Tremaine Neverson, a.k.a. Trey Songz. Now, what was crazy about that, let me see some Sloan Bella too. She also said Drake gotta go. Yeah. She also did say that. Funny thing about the Trey Songz docket, real quick. Let me see if I still have that one up, because that's in this one. That's in this one here. So look what was said in this particular one here. Reason why they even mentioned Trey Songz in this was because of what he had said in this particular docket here, actually. These hoes got to stop with this BS. This is when he was responding to the allegations, basically. So these hoes got to stop this BS. Just another female trying to get some money from a celebrity. Man, get the fuck out of here. Where's she at? Leave Trey alone. Hashtag thirst traps. I know someone can pull up Diddy's 2017 New Year's Eve photos, and let's find the chicken roomies. So we're not necessarily looking for the girl, but the 2017 New Year's party was actually the year that Joe Biden attended. So, needless to say, that there was some freak off activity going on at the 2017 New Year's party as well. Now, we're not gonna, of course, say that any of these people were allegedly in the freak off, but you know, we'll just leave it at that. We'll just leave it at that. We'll just leave it at that, shall we? So, named as defendant in the civil lawsuit of Tremaine Neverson, defendant Combs was also implicated in a lawsuit filed in California against R&B singer Chris Brown for a sexual assault that took place on a yacht anchored in defendant Combs' Star Island estate, Miami, Florida. Now, that one, they're just talking about the Christian Combs incident. But Chris Brown was also referenced in a lawsuit between plaintiff Rodney Jones and defendant Combs, implicating Mr. Brown was in Mr. Combs' L.A. home consorting with underage girls and sex workers. This is now the 10th lawsuit filed against the defendant Combs since November 16, 2023, just as the allegations brought by the other 9 plaintiffs. Plaintiff English claims are just as egregious. Due to the numerous lawsuits filed against defendant Combs alleging the same or similar acts, there is now a growing awareness that defendant Combs was engaging in far more sinister acts than previously known, including physical abuse and sex trafficking. Specifically from 2004 to 2009, plaintiff was sex trafficked by defendants Combs, Thomas, and Arbov. Be 1 second. I'm parched. Shout out to everybody tuning in once again. I am parched. Give me 1 second. My brother gotta get his drink on real quick. Gotta get my drink. This is gonna be a long docket, I see. This is gonna be a long one. All right, where are we at? Okay, so additionally, because of defendant relationship with defendant Vibe due to their conspiracy in the sex trafficking enterprise, defendants knew they could publish plaintiff's likeness without her consent in fear of recourse, and chose plaintiff's likeness to use without permission in an effort to continue the defendant's sex trafficking enterprise for their financial benefit. Therefore, plaintiff brings claims pursuant to New York civil rights law, and of course now we just get down to the jurisdiction and venue. Let me see here. I found out recently that Jay got two people who greatly influenced my life, and I want smoke with your boy, to be honest. Yeah, Jay's got some skeletons in his closet. He definitely has some skeletons in his closet. We have 38 people up in here. Shout out to everybody tuning up in here. Who else just came up in here? Barkley sent up Ryan there. Who is this one here? IB1 for life. Shout out to you being up in here. Shout out to Handyman, Fury B, Maddie up in here. I see you. Madman 90. Shout out to you being up in here as well. All right, let's get into this still. Jurisdiction and venue. This court has personal jurisdiction over the. Okay, so we're going to get down to the nitty gritty. Procedural requirements is the parties, of course. We already know about Diddy. This is basically all his companies, and these are basically the artists that were on the label. This is the actual label itself here. This is more the defendants. Now, Tamiko Thomas is actually in this, and supposedly Tamiko Thomas is supposedly an infiltrator, similar to KK from the other case with Rodney Jones, the chief of staff. Similar to the chief of staff that's in the Rodney Jones case. And also Jacob the jeweler is featured in this particular lawsuit as well. So, and Vibe magazine, of course, for the copyright infringement and the use of her. And then you have the Penske Media Corporation as well that holds them. So, without further ado, let's get down to that's Miss Andrea English, and this is of course the adult. I have to skip these, of course. I don't know what YouTube's policy is, but those are the adult tapes that Miss Adria English was in. This is Adria English and her boyfriend. Now he looks actually quite familiar, to be honest with you. I could not find more things on him yet, but like I said, he looks very, very familiar. So let's get down to it. So while plaintiff's then boyfriend auditioned for modeling gigs and attended go-sees in New York, Andrea began go-go dancing and performing at Larry Flint's Hustler Club on 51st Street in New York under the stage name of Sasha. On or about mid-2004, Mr. Gallo attended an audition for a Sean John modeling campaign in New York where plaintiff accompanied him. During the audition, another model and Mr. Gallo were asked to perform fellatio on Sean John. Wow. They were asked to perform fellatio on Sean's John. That sounds very Diddy-like to me, doesn't it? But, of course, he refused and was later reapproached by employee defendant Tamiko Thomas, offering new terms. The terms being that Mr. Gallo could still book the Sean John campaign, but he just had the plaintiff to he just had to have Andrea pretty much be at the all white party and do some go-go dancing, since he had been seen at the Larry Flint's Hustler Club by Diddy. So, in an effort to assist Mr. Gallo's desire to become a model, plaintiff agreed to what she believed to be legitimate employment with defendant Combs and BBE as entertainment at the all-white parties in the Hamptons, New York. And that's the full address too. Oh no, that's not the full address. Excuse me. In the Hamptons, New York, and Miami, Florida, from 2004 to 2009. 2004 to 2009. So if I'm thinking about the timeline 2004 to 2009, right? The 2004 all-white party had Ashton Kutcher. I remember that. I know that club well, around the corner from my high school. Oh, so you know about the Hustler Club? That's cool. That's cool. That's cool, right there. So, but fair be, how old are you then? how old are you then? That's a good question. Because I'm not gonna ask if you know Adria, of course, but if you've seen some things, just Nappy Image, what's good? I see you up in here too, as well. Where we at here? Where we at here? Factual allegations. Okay, so now we get down to it. So, plaintiff's employment at defendant Combs' Labor Day white party. As agreed to between Mr. Gallo, defendant Thomas, and defendant Combs. Let me just refresh the chat here real quick. Sean John Combs and BBE plaintiff began her employment at the ultra-exclusive and lavish Labor Day parties thrown by defendant Combs and BBE called the White Party, and Mr. Gallo began his employment as a Sean John model. And this is Adria here at the all-white party with the go-go outfit. Plaintiff believed this to be a legitimate employment opportunity. Plaintiff was picked up, by Tamiko Thomas in a car driven by one of the defendant. Why is this written so weirdly? In a car driven by one of the defendants, owned either by defendant Combs. They wrote that so weirdly. So basically, it was a car that was driven by that was owned by Diddy, BBE, or Sean John, of course, and transported to the all-white party. When plaintiff arrived at Combs's party in the Hampton Estates with defendant Tamiko Thomas and other sex trafficked individuals. Now, see, that's another thing here too. So. Yep, 804 is here all as well. So you're from Virginia. What it do? Defendant Thomas brought them into a room where they had changed into clothes provided by them. So basically, she's saying that there were other people that were sex trafficked there that was working the all-white parties doing the go-go dancing as well. So Andrea's outfit in the above picture was provided to her as a uniform, as she was led to believe she was in an employment capacity and Adria was required to wear the clothing provided as a part of her employment. So Adria was also provided a separate room from the party away from where the partygoers congregated. That was used by Adria and other employees as a break room to take respite during basically a little bit of break during the party, as Adria was there in an employment capacity. So Adria was encouraged directly by Tamiko Thomas to provide lap dances and be sexually flirtatious with the guests at the all-white party. Plaintiff was also instructed and directed by Diddy as to which guests Adria should focus the attention and interaction with to ensure his guests were having a great time. Adria was strictly instructed by Combs and Thomas, on which bottles of alcohol and champagne female employees were to exclusively drink from, and also required Adria to take narcotics offered by a white party guest. Respect. Yes, respect. I couldn't get that word out properly. So we've seen this before as well, right? With the lacing of the liquor. We've seen this in every single lawsuit. Every single lawsuit. Yes, it is the dumbest language. It really is. Every single lawsuit has had Diddy involved in lacing the liquor. So, despite being forced to drink copious amounts of alcohol and consume illicit narcotics, the encounters Adria was forced to endure were so excruciating that Adria remembers them as they still haunt her to this day. She was forced to consume liquor and illicit narcotics as part of her employment at the all-white party. Upon information and belief, Diddy laced the liquor with ecstasy, which is why Adria was provided strict rules on which bottles to consume from. So basically, she had to keep consuming the bottles with the ecstasy all night. Think about that. So it wasn't like she was allowed to drink the regular liquor all night. She had to keep drinking the liquor with the ecstasies. What's the ecstasy in it? That's kind of fucked up. So Adria performed to the expectations of Diddy and was personally thanked for her obedience by Diddy, and was subsequently invited for her future employment at the white parties. Adria was paid in cash at the end of the night, typically between 4 to 6 a.m. once the party had concluded, and she was paid by Tamika Thomas, who was given the money from Diddy, basically. Yes, Diddy's a wild boy. Wild boy. And sounds like Cassie. Yeah. Sounds like Cassie pretty much. So the thing with this is, like I said, this is more emphasis on the all-white parties and the sex trafficking that was going on at those parties there. What's crazy about it is the fact that every single one of these early Diddy parties involved someone lacing the bottles of liquor. So with this is before Tusi. This is before the Tusi. This is before the Tusi drug here. The first all-white party in 2004 had no sinister intent or requirements for physical sexual contact and seemed to be a legitimate employment opportunity. So when plaintiff was offered employment in the preceding years at the Labor Day white party, she accepted the employment opportunity. She was employed as entertainer at subsequent white parties in the Hamptons, New York. Excuse me. She was always transported to the Hamptons by way of car service provided by either defendant Combs, BBE, Sean Johns, CGE, or organizational does, with a driver who was also an employee of Diddy. With the defendant Tamiko Thomas also being present at liaison and coordinator between employees and Diddy, basically. So she would use numbers provided to contact either or both Diddy and Tamika Thomas to arrange transportation to the all-white parties, and it included using the telephone and text messaging services to confirm the date, time, location, or pickup. Tamiko would then arrive in the location provided by Adria at the agreed date and time and give her the chauffeured ride there. You should review the interview or dialogue with Natanya Rubin. I was just looking at that earlier. The woman is the definition of coverage. She had me in tears recounting her story. So that's the lady that got yeah, she was the one from the nightclub shooting. I was actually watching that earlier. So Diddy had actually put a hit on her, and she pretty much was on the run. Like, she had to go in witness protection and everything. And she was taking her car to the mechanic, and the mechanic was like, "Yo, you got an ex boyfriend stalking you or some shit," and pretty much she knew that someone was just fucking with her car. So and Diddy had pretty much put a money hit out on her, and she had to leave for a little bit. But yeah, very heartwarming story there with that lady. Just God bless that she's even alive right now, and she looks amazing for someone that had gotten shot in the eye, and just not even a couple of months ago, she still had the bandage on her eye. That's another thing. She just recently took that bandage off of her eye. That's the saddest part of that. So Diddy's security team and other, okay, so Adria was always provided wardrobe by defendants, by Tamika Thomas and Diddy, and also was provided a break room while attending the white parties. Tamiko and Diddy groomed Adria into sex trafficking. Excuse me, into sex trafficking over time. Around the third all-white party, defendants Thomas and Combs demanded plaintiff begin engaging in vaginal sexual intercourse. So now they had her. So now they had her fucking at the parties. Is what this is saying here. Now they're using her talents. That is that's now we're getting to something here. So basically, Diddy knows she's a porn star. So and knows she's a go-go dancer. So now he's saying, okay, you've pretty much been to a couple of these parties. You should be comfortable enough with doing a little bit more if I pay you to. That's pretty much what is being alluded to right here. So Adria began engaging in vaginal sex intercourse with guests as they had learned about her past in the adult entertainment industry and used it forcefully to coerce Andrea into sex work for the benefit of Tamiko Thomas and Diddy and their beneficiaries. During this all-white party, Andrea was provided a black dress to wear by Tamiko Thomas and Diddy. When previously plaintiff was provided white clothing, all other guests at the theme of the party and the like other guests and the theme of the party, upon information and belief. She believes she was required to wear a black dress to the white party to denote her capacity there as an employee, but more sinisterly as a sex trafficked sex worker. So yeah, so pretty much, yeah, that's his bag. John Oddie was also a dancing bear. That's the crazy part. Jonathan Oddie was a sex worker for the Dancing Bears, and that's how Diddy actually got him. So being that now they're using the porn star thing against her while she's at these all white parties, right? You see like the stuff with her credit and her tie. Yeah, being that she's they're using the fact that she's a porn star against her at these all white parties, her being in the black dress now, yes, is making her an actual target to things. So I caught that immediately. It's an all white party. Now you have someone in a black dress who pretty much is going to be sticking out like a sore thumb, but she's pretty much the target of you can do whatever you want with her. That's like I said, it's now getting into the kinkiness of a freak off. Okay, so Andrea, fearing not only her safety, but her then boyfriend's job security, Diddy as instruct and went with defendant Jacob, where she engaged Jacob the jeweler, and went with Jacob the jeweler, where she engaged in forced sexual intercourse with Jacob the jeweler at the demand and behest of Diddy. Adria knew refusing Diddy demands was not an option, and to do so would be at her and Mr. Gallo's detriment. So pretty much she was in fear for her and her boyfriend's life, in a sense. Remember, this is back in the early 2000s. Okay, so it's not like now to where whistleblowing is okay and you can just speak up and say something. Back then, it was you're probably gonna get kicked out and then killed later. So Adria was coerced by Diddy into consuming copious amounts of alleged laced alcohol prior to being coerced and forced into having the sexual intercourse with Jacob the jeweler. Uh, she's pictured here with Jake. She's pictured with Jacob after the assault, right here. Now, the only thing this is I'm saying to myself right here is the fact that okay, yeah, she was fucked up, but I'm sitting here saying to myself, okay, she was also a porn star at the time. This picture doesn't necessarily look like she was uncomfortable after the fact, but at the same time, she was just trying to play it off, I guess, that she was uncomfortable. That's what I'm taking from it, maybe. But so she received an additional $1,000 in cash on top of what she had received as payment at the prior two white parties. So from Tamika Thomas at the end of the night. And at the end of the night, Diddy personally congratulated her following his directives, for following the directives with Jacob the jeweler, and for a job well done. So she's personally witnessed Diddy, Tamiko, and Jacob the jeweler solicit and ingest narcotics and engage in the illicit sex acts. So she was also employed at the white parties that commenced at Diddy's Miami Star Island residence. During these all-white parties, employments. Let me see. Employments. She travels was arranged. So Adria's travel was arranged by, of course, Tamika Thomas again upon arrival in Fort Lauderdale. So let's skip that part right there because it's just talking about how she had to set up the arrangement of the flight. Tamika Thomas was to, let's see, defendant Thomas was to as a Maxwell to okay. So Tamika Thomas to Diddy is like Ghislaine Maxwell to Jeffrey Epstein, is what they're saying here. Basically, the assistant to the trafficking. Without Tamiko Thomas, a woman using her inherent goodwill as a woman to gain the trust of another woman, coordinating and acting as an avatar for Diddy, Diddy would be able to execute his corrupt sex trafficking organization, which is very true. Which is very true. Something outside with so if you think about this, right, the female pimps are always the ones that have the most longevity because they can actually relate to the women, similar to, like I said, with KK in the Rodney Jones situation. That chief of staff, she pretty much was able to get all the girls to pretty much get things together. She was almost the ringleader of what the girls were actually doing. I'm talking about Miami, Jade, and Daphne and them. So see, a woman without using inherent goodwill. Yes, so without Tamika Thomas, a woman using her inherent goodwill as a woman to gain the trust of another woman, coordinating and acting as an avatar, Diddy would be unable to execute his corrupt sex trafficking organization by himself. So she's unable to recall details from the Miami all-white parties due to the increased demand that Adria engaged in illicit narcotics and alcohol. So basically, she fucked so much that she can barely even remember a lot of those things. She took so many drugs and so many things that she can't even remember what's going on. Tamiko Thomas and Diddy passed off plaintiffs. Excuse me. They passed off Adria to other defendants outside of Jacob the jeweler, named as defendant Doze, to be sexually assaulted as part of their ongoing corrupt sex trafficking organization. Upon information and belief, she believes Diddy had hidden cameras in every room of his home in the Hamptons, which we already found out he actually does. He actually does have a ton of blueprints. He has a ton of cameras inside of his home. And the feds pretty much had to, say, hey, what you got on these cameras here, man? What do you got on what you got all this footage here that you hiding? Why do you have all this? Okay, so she believes that he had cameras hidden in every room of the home in the Hamptons, New York, and Star Island in Florida. Forgetting about the one in L.A. there, but you probably didn't go to that one as well. But yes, he had cameras everywhere in all the homes. So, excuse me. Upon information and belief, uh, defendant Doe's. So these are the unnamed ones. They almost said they don't have any redactions here for the Doe's, so we can't really break down the Doe's just yet. So defendant Doe's, who were individuals, Tamika Thomas and Diddy passed off Andrea to be sexually assaulted, were filmed by Diddy on security cameras sexually assaulting Andrea, while plaintiff is assaulting plaintiff while okay, so they were assaulting her while she was unconscious during the all-white parties in both New York and Florida. So she pretty much got so drugged up and fucked up that she really couldn't even remember what the hell was even going on. So upon information and belief, these individuals and Adria were recorded without their knowledge and consent. So maybe, and I'm starting to think there's another plaintiff that she's talking about when she keeps doing the whole plaintiff and plaintiff thing. I think there's another whole girl, but she just necessarily can't say her name. So upon okay, so it's the same thing here. Upon information and belief, this treasure trove of evidence in Diddy's possession may either still be in Diddy's possession or in the possession of the FBI, as the FBI executed the warrant and raided Diddy's home. So she believes that that's why she's also coming up with the case. So she thinks that they actually have the footage of it, and that if they can release it to her, and that this would pretty much be a case closed here. So meat and potatoes moment here. So Diddy makes promises of career advancement by way of music artists to plaintiffs. So this sounds similar to the Rodney Jones situation again, to where Rodney Jones was promised a buku amounts of money as well as a whole mansion. But needless to say, he got nothing. Okay, so Diddy is very forceful, demanding, and does not take no for an answer, and would often threaten to inflict bodily harm and terminate Adria or her then boyfriend's Mr. Gallo employment and blackball them from the industry if plaintiff didn't comply with his demands. As Diddy acted and was viewed in such a way to where Mr. Gallo and plaintiff believed he had the power to where Diddy's threats were credible. So they pretty much believed that he would be able to execute anything as far as getting done to them. So Diddy used his power and influence to threaten and intimidate Andrea to continue participating in Diddy's corrupt sex and sex trafficking organization. Diddy, in an effort to continue to silence Andrea and keep her in his sex trafficking organization, offered to help Andrea enter into the music business as a part of an all-female music group. And of course, that was not going to necessarily work. So Andrea knew of defendant Diddy powerless, prowess? Oh, excuse me. Knew of Diddy's prowess in the music industry and knew he had the power to help her advance in her music career. Now, of course, he does have that, but at the same time, how many people have he actually lied to and not even actually execute on that right there? So, Adria believed Diddy would fulfill his promises to help her career, just as he had helped plaintiff's then boyfriend's modeling career. So he helped the modeling career of the boyfriend, but did he really? Or did he just look out for him a little bit? So Andrea, having been professionally exposed to the music industry side of Diddy's empire, grew more aware of the true nature of her employment at the all-white parties, which was grotesque, inexcutable, inexcutable, and exploitative and criminal. Andrea's only way to escape Diddy was to return to California, which plaintiff did in 2009. Upon information and belief in retaliation for Andrea's escape, Diddy had plaintiff's then boyfriend, Mr. Gallo, blackballed from the modeling industry and had all of Mr. Gallo's campaigns with Sean John removed. Upon information and belief, in retaliation for Adria's escape, defendant Combs was Diddy had Andrea blackballed from the entertainment industry. So pretty much once the no came, that's when the blackballing came of the industry for you. Uh, Diddy's corrupt sex and drug trafficking organization has cursed uh, has cursed Andrea lifelong harm. So she became severely depressed and began to blame herself for being trafficked and for sabotaging her own career. Being sex trafficked and abused led has led Andrea into a tailspin of anxiety and depression. In or about 2010, she was hospitalized for mental illness as a direct cause of her being attacked by the defendants. Everywhere she goes, she was reminded of being trafficked by defendant Combs, and as he is inescapable presence in music, television, and film. In the ensuing years, Andrea has also experienced the alcohol and drug addiction as she attempted to cope with the emotional trauma of being assaulted and trafficked. Andrea has also experienced intimacy issues as she struggles to maintain emotional and sexual relationships with men. So she was recently married. However, fears her marriage might fall apart due to her mental breakdowns, participated by memories of the assault and trafficking. So that's pretty damn sad that she even has to live with that type of thing just locked into her brain all the time. I didn't mean for this thing to go all the way down here the way it did. But I gotta go back on up. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. All right. Think we're about right here. Okay, so Diddy has altered the trajectory of Andrea's career, denying her successful and lucrative career in the music industry. To this day, Adria experiences bouts of depression, anxiety, body image issues, feelings of worthlessness, and intimacy issues because of being trafficked by Diddy. Uh, she's a woman of faith, and when she saw news coverage of the countless lawsuits initiated by brave other individuals against Diddy, she knew she had a moral obligation to speak up. Feared further violence and or retaliation from defendant Combs in filing this lawsuit, but ultimately decided that it was imperative she speak her truth with the hopes that no other individual would have to endure the egregious and heinous treatment she has. That's how it is for SA victims. Sound pretty standard as far as the aftermath. Yeah, definitely is. So, Trafficking and Victim Protection Act. According to Adria, she was transported from New York to Florida throughout Diddy for the purpose throughout by Diddy for the purpose of engaging in sexual activities. So she asserts during this time, uh, Andrea was forced to engage in sex work and perform sex acts to the pleasure of and the behest of defendant Combs. Between 2006 and 2009, defendant Combs forced plaintiff to engage in prostitution and sex work at his homes in Hampton, New York, and Miami, Florida. Plaintiff assets. Let's see. Let's go down here. So, Adrias asserts that defendants Vibe and PMC were involved in defendant Combs' organized sex trafficking empire. Plaintiff asserts that defendants Vibe and PMC's involvement in the enterprise included providing Diddy resources like Let's see, resources like intentionally and falsely marketing and promoting defendant Combs. Uh, White parties in its publication as a high profile networking and social event in an effort to disguise and deceive the real intent of the event, which was to further Diddy and his various businesses, including BBE, SCE, and Vibe, and PMC's profits. In furtherance of defendants' illegal enterprise, defendants Vibe, PMC, and insured defendant Combs, and his business BEBE, SJC, and CJE appeared overwhelming in its magazine, be on its cover or pages inside Defendants Magazine, fearing pages featuring pages dedicated by Diddy personally or his business. Let's see. Adria believes defendants Vibe and PMC engaged in defendant Combs' illegal enterprise to increase the visibility and profitability of its publication. So let's go down here just a little bit. So seeks justice against all defendants for sex trafficking. So claims related to plaintiff's picture and likeness. One or around Labor Day 2004, plaintiff's picture was taken while in her employment capacity as a defendant So at the old white party, excuse me. Plaintiff did not know what her picture was being taken for or would be used for, nor plaintiff's consent. I wonder who this other plaintiff is, because they won't say her actual last name on it. They just leaving her as a doe. So Adria has never entered into an argument with any defendant to license her likeness, nor was it a term for employment at the all-white party. So that defendant Vibe magazine and PMC intentionally mislabeled Adria as a guest at the all-white party in its magazine to further conceal the truth intentions of the event. And then the employment role at the event in an effort to further the goals of the defendants' legal and criminalized enterprise. And then Vibe and PMC exploited plaintiff's likeness in their 2006 magazine, where defendant Combs was the cover and the story was about the all-white parties, which by this point was a cultural phenomenon. And this is the all-white party, of course. So I got pictures here. So Adria unauthorized and non-consensual infringing use of their picture and likeness appears on page 140 of the magazine. Oop. Let me drop that there. So Adria did not discover the infringing use until about April 2024. So about April of this year is when she finally figured out that someone was jacking some stuff that she wrote. This infringing use promoted without limitation products synonymous with Diddy, including the All White Party and defendants BBE, SJC, and CGE. What's a lot of initials there? She is readily. Let me move this up the screen. She is readily and easily identifiable in the infringing use, and her picture and likeliness is excuse me. I gotta forgive me. I'm a little bit tired and under the weather here. Likeness and prominently displayed in defendants' Vibe and PMC publication. So the aforementioned act violates her rights to privacy via misappropriation. Plaintiff has never given any defendant a release to use her likeness in any publication or platforms, media, or formats, digital, physical, or otherwise. The November 2006 issue of Vibe and PMC is still ready for available for sale and the viewable online. Now, at all relevant times, Andrea had Andrea had the sole and exclusive right for publicity with regard to the issue of her picture, portrait, and likeness, and under the New York State law. See, bro, Penske Media was founded by the son of the founder of Penske Shipping containers. Think we found it. Oh, wow. Penske Media, founded by the son of founder Penske. Oh, wow. Penske, okay, that makes sense. Penske Shipping. The like the gas station too, Penske. Okay. Okay, that makes a lot more sense too. That makes a lot more sense too as well. Like I said, I think we're gonna be spending a good week on just breaking down the different things that are inside that Kendrick Lamar video there. But where are we at here? So in all relevant times had the sole and exclusive right of public. Okay. Regard to the use of the picture, portrait, and likeness. So basically, she's basically, that's why she's including Vibe magazine in this, because she doesn't like the fact that her likeness was used, and now being that her likeness was used, you pretty much her likeness wasn't hers or owned. People can pretty much just use it on anything. Like I said, I keep using the example of the Black Mirror episode with Selma Hayek, and she got mad at Netflix or the Netflix parody station or whatever that was using her likeness to pretty much do whatever she wanted, and she wouldn't even be on set. It was just pretty much just doing whatever, and it was a complete AI at the time. That's the scary part about that. So this is before AI was. They were doing the whole create a whole show with AI type of thing in real life. So imagine if they would have played that in the skit right there, and how scary it would actually be. Black Mirror does a great job of doing that. But so the aforementioned the aforementioned act violates Adria's right to privacy via misappropriation. Adria has never given any defendant a release to use her likeness in any publication or platforms, media or forum. So basically, this part right here is about her suing Vibe and PMC about using her likeness on those flyers, especially when she wasn't even in attendance anymore. So at no point did Adria authorize, consent to, or otherwise seek to allow the defendant or any of them to exploit her picture. Okay, so this is more of, like I said, the useness of the picture. And of course, like I said, she does fireworks. You've got to hear something. So incorporates by reference all preceding paragraphs and alleges them as set forth fully herein. So I wonder right now, does this include anymore? Not the provider, the RICO orchestrator. So this is another thing. This is similar to Rodney Jones, to where she's saying that this is more of a RICO case than anything. And I have plenty things, and I mean plenty things that I could show you guys as far as evidence to make this a RICO case. Okay, so this is just, like I said, this is more looking into it. So, like I said, the root of all of this was more so the all-white parties. Let's see here. So, defendants have unlawfully increased their profits by luring and deceiving individuals such as Adria to their organization for the misstated purpose of using their talents and entertainment. Defendants' true intentions are later revealed through a calculated grooming scheme that involves false promises of business opportunities, exposure to high-level celebrity individuals, including former President Donald Trump, Reverend Al Sharpton, and Paris Hilton, music mogul Jay-Z, and music executives like Russell Simmons, Irv Gotti, Steve Stout, Andre Harrell, and Leo Cohen. With the promise of introductions, networking, fame, and fortune, which quickly shifts to unauthorized drugging and threats and sex trafficking. Diddy, you're going down, brother. You're going down. Look at him scene with Donald Trump here. Ain't that something right there? Scene with Donald Trump. And you got Russell Simmons and his girlfriend back in the day. I forget that gentleman's name over there on the right. God forgive me for not remembering who that is right there as well. This is pictures from the all-white party right here. Seeing all-white heat. Ironically, you see who's in the top picture right there, Mr. Heavy D. Rest in peace to Heavy D. Ironically, Heavy D and Mary J. Blige are in this picture as well. I cannot wait for Mary J. Blige to finally have this discussion with someone. And she's just a Jane Doe, but only Diddy knows who actually wrote it. So while employed by Diddy at the all-white parties, she witnessed Combs instruct and direct defendant Tamiko Thomas and the other employees to acquire, transport the illicit narcotics. She personally witnessed Tamiko Thomas transport the narcotics to and from the white parties in New York and in Florida. So she personally witnessed Combs ingest and distribute the illicit narcotics once he received them. Adria personally witnessed and was directed by defendant Diddy to engage in sex work while employed as an entertainer at the all-white parties. Plaintiff was required to engage in sex acts with attendees at the all-white parties. When instructed by Diddy or Thomas, plaintiff would be paid in cash for complying with the demands for sex work, and there was no renegotiation between Adria and other defendants, Thomas or the party receiving services regarding a price to be paid for a plaintiff complying with sex work demands. So basically, there's people trying to get round 1, 2, and 3 and was ready to pay to get some of that. That's unfortunate right there, where you went from just being a regular dancer and providing beverages and drinks at a party to now you're just the hoe of the party, and everybody just gets to have their way with you, and you're basically paid for that. That's kind of crazy right there. And then you're being, like I said, trafficked from state to state pretty much with this. So she's seen all the homes except for the L.A. one. Maybe she's seen the L.A. home and we just haven't got to it yet. But yeah, so the RICO enterprise activities affected interstate commerce is compromised of an association of persons, including each defendant and other unnamed co-conspirators herein. So they're going to let it go right now, but later on, actually, they're not going to let it go later on. I mean, let it go right now. They're pretty much coming in for him. Now, what I wanted to speak on real quick is the fact that this says RICO Enterprise. Remember the Rodney Jones case, and they kept emphasizing the whole RICO Enterprise thing? So I'm seeing here again RICO Enterprise. I'm wondering now if that's what this is even going to turn into. Is this going to be a whole Bad Boy Entertainment RICO case? Because if that's the case, it's going to be a lot of birdies singing. If they just suddenly turn this into just a bad boy type of thing. So that associated was structured by various agreements, deals, contracts, and non-contractual relationships between defendants, by which defendants, Tamiko Thomas and Diddy, assume different roles in knowingly and directly or indirectly participating in the acts necessarily to carry out the directives of the enterprise, which was to acquire and distribute narcotics. So, needless to say, without so many words, she's building to be a RICO case similar to Rodney Jones, and has a lot of evidence to go with what Rodney Jones has to back this up. So I'm hoping someone looks at this and says, "Hey, Rodney, why don't you just get together and, discuss information, pretty much. Just trade information. What do you know? What do I know?" I think all of the victims should, at this point, there's 10 lawsuits right now. I think all the victims should pretty much be getting together, having some type of group chat together, and figuring out what's going to be the next go-to, not just with moving on in life, but just getting justice with this situation here. So, Adria's then boyfriend, Mr. Gallo, so of course they pretty much broken up after this situation, was also employed by one of Diddy's business defendants, Sean John Combs. Employee defendant Thomas solicited plaintiff, or Andrea, I should say, via Mr. Gallo to work for Diddy at his all-white parties. So basically, they were just using Gallo to get to her for the simple fact that she was really what they actually wanted. He was the win-win as far as the modeling, but what they really wanted was to get her there at those all-white parties. That's kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy. And it's at least Jane Doe 1. That was another thing that was in this case, too. The Jane Does 1 through 10. It's like, how many victims were in this one particular lawsuit inside this all-white party? So how many people were actually going through some shit at this all-white party is my question. That's really what I want to know right there. So yeah, and this pretty much almost went in a circle because it was just pretty much, like I said, just talking about everything that was going on. Not just everything, but it's just a restatement, a redetailed statement of what she had to do at the all-white parties. And she felt that she was threatened and blackballed right after she pretty much wasn't down with the shits anymore. Excuse me. But yes, this is sex trafficking. This is definitely sex trafficking. And the fact that she was promised the same thing that little Rodney was promised. She's promised the same exact thing. Basically, a budding career, a successful career, and money. You know, that red carpet treatment, or should I say the white glove treatment? Yeah. So this is just more articles here, of course. And we seen that one earlier. So that's why I said this was a lot of if you notice in this docket, there is quite of a lot of duplication of pictures and just reiteration of the same exact information. So that's why I didn't feel the need to necessarily even to be honest with you, it's not really much more to I read this docket earlier. It's not really much more to read in it. It's like I said, it's pretty much the same exact reiterated information that we already know. The same information that we already know is that Diddy at these all white parties are not only trafficking people, but is drugging people with ecstasy and God knows what else inside of the liquor. There's so many different things that are very similar to the same exact cases that we just had before us. So it's almost like spitting over the same exact raps over it, over it, over again. That's what this is right now. Every single thing that is inside this docket, you'll find in Rodney Jones' case, you'll find in Cassie's case, you'll find in April's case, you'll find in one of the John and Jane Doe's case. Like, it's out there. Just out there. And like I said, this is just pretty much a continuous loop of detailed information as far as Diddy's supposed RICO power over being able to threaten the boyfriend at the time and don't still be able to do what you gotta do. And of course, I understand the boyfriend being lost now, Mr. Gallo, because his employment was on the line from the get-go. You don't want to live in a world like that, to where your employment is just on the line all the time, just all the time, and it has nothing to do with me. All the time, my career is on the line all the time, but has nothing to do with me. I'm okay. Yeah. So, needless to say, like I said, this is one of those things to where you already know where this is going to head. Listen, Diddy is definitely on his way out, y'all. He's on his way out. And he can't do nothing about it. And he knows he can't do nothing about it. He knows. It's already over. This is already over. And like I said, it wasn't really much left to read in this docket. As you guys saw, it was the same 4 text messages over and over at one point. That was the only other cool feature. The amounts of times that yeah, so the 2004 and 2009, the amount of time that was in between that 2004 and 2009. So when did when exactly did this stop in 2009? That's my question now. Because it, like I said, it just vaguely glazes over and over again about the 2004 2009. My whole thing is, how did it actually come to a cease, and why was this one of the more pivotal times of it starting to come to a cease, and get the upgrade of things and the upgrade of the look, and then come back and say, okay, we need to represent this correctly. So 2004 to 2009, I'm guessing this is also the funny thing is, this is also the Cassie area. This is also the Cassie era. 2004 to 2009. Either way, she was definitely trafficked off and prostituted based upon her adult film industry talents. She was definitely trafficked in this, allegedly. Hope all receipts are kept. All receipts are kept on this one. Man, oh man, oh man. We're up to 10 lawsuits with Diddy. Can y'all believe that, though? That we really up there? And I said that, too. I said we're going to get up to... I forgot what the number was, too. I would have won some money. I said we're going to get up to 10 before November. That's what it was. I said we're going to get to 10 before November. I might as well say we're going to get up to 15 before November now. Kind of how I feel. But it wasn't much more else to get into this evening, y'all, to be honest with y'all. That was pretty much it. The highlight of the night was Kendrick. And the Diddy lawsuit is, once you've read the other 9, you pretty much know what the fuck you're reading. You pretty much know what else is going on. So, I mean, it don't take the all-seeing eye or this owl here